Hey everybody, this is Sally coming to you from Orlando, and I have just walked down to a little Italian restaurant to have myself a salad for lunch. It's about 10 minutes away from my condo, and it's a beautiful day out, and I'm waiting to have my lunch served. So I wanted to just chat a few minutes with you guys, kind of as a follow-up from the post I did the other day, which was all about, thank you so much. Bye now. So I wanted to just kind of follow up on the post that I did that said what you think about, you bring about. And it's kind of I think right now, this time of year, might be kind of a thing. If we all kind of start thinking about some of this, it may be a little bit helpful to get us through maybe some of the stressful times that do go on in the month of December. With Christmas coming and so forth. And I want to share two different things that I have used, changing my thinking a little bit, that actually has made me feel pretty darn good. And the first one has to do with actually Christmas Day. And right now it's December 2nd, and we all know that, in 23 days it's going to be Christmas time, and some of us don't have any plans. Some of us maybe have lost somebody this year or even in the past, and the holidays are tough. And others maybe just have some health issues going on with them or a family member, and it just makes it, that much harder when everybody around you is celebrating and you're struggling some. So, having said that, I want to just share a little bit about my experience a few years ago, because this whole think about what you think about, you bring about, I think it's really powerful, but it's not really that easy to do, because you sort of have to retrain yourself. And a few years ago, I was kind of on my own for Christmas. My family lives up north, and I was retired. I was thought, well, I should be doing a trip or whatever. Well, nothing seemed to be going the way that I sort of wanted it to, and it was getting closer and closer to Christmas, and I knew that I was going to be alone. So I started to think about it and think, I don't like that feeling. I didn't like that I didn't have plans. And now this was earlier in the month, so I needed to really begin to think about what I can either continue on this path of feeling a little sorry for myself because I didn't have plans and I was going to be alone, or I could do something to maybe change that direction of feeling a little bit better for myself. And I started to do a little research, and I remembered that earlier in the year, a family that I'm good friends with had lost a child. The child was born with a very serious heart issue. They ended up taking the child to the Ronald McDonald House in Tampa, and the child did not make it. But the experience that the family had going through this terrible, terrible experience was pretty phenomenal because of the Ronald McDonald House. So I thought, I wonder if I could volunteer there on Christmas Day. So I called, and they said, well, we don't have a lot going on that day, but the one thing that does need to be done, we need the rooms cleaned. And yes, absolutely, if you'd like to volunteer during that time, it's a perfect time to have a volunteer, because that will allow the workers then that are the employees of Ronald McDonald, for them to go and have dinner with their family and share the Christmas. So I thought, I talked to another friend who didn't have plans either. We did that, we went. We didn't really know what we were doing, but there's very few people at the house that particular day, but we cleaned every room in the house as best we could, and walked out of there feeling great. I mean, it was probably the smartest thing I've done in a long, long time. So instead of me sitting at home and feeling sorry for myself and thinking about my woes, I decided to think about a different way to spend Christmas, and then followed through on it. So that was one thing that I did. Now, the next thing that I did really didn't didn't have anything to do with, sadness because of the time of year or anything, but it had to do with my own health. And some of you know this and some don't, but I have had a brain bleed in 2019 that was, it was quite a shock. It was scary, but I've come out of it for the most part feeling, without a lot of residual side effects. It was a stroke. I kind of argued with the hospital staff saying, no, it was a brain bleed, it wasn't a stroke. And they said, well, that's what a brain bleed is. So once I kind of got my head around that, and had to, have some medical procedures done after that. In the post I put on the other day, I did talk about, like, when you go in to have an MRI, what are some things that happen when you go in there? You're not supposed to be moving, you're not supposed to be, you're supposed to lay still, you're supposed to be quiet, you're not supposed to disrupt the procedure at all. And then, I remember one that I went in, as soon as I got in there, I started thinking about, well, what if I need to I've got an itch and I have to scratch it. And and I will tell you, if you're in an MRI and you're laying flat on your back and you're having an MRI of your head and your leg itches and your hand is right down there, scratch the darn itch. It's not going to hurt anything. I didn't think I could move at all. I didn't think I should swallow. I didn't think I should do anything. I've had enough MRIs to know that basically, even if you screw up in there, they'll just stop it and they'll back it up and redo the part that needs to be done. But, so I knew that I had some MRIs. This is back a couple years ago, and I had to have some MRIs. I needed 4 MRIs done. So I'm not one to, it's not too hard for me to sit comfortably and be quiet. And so when I made my appointments, I said, can I have all 4 of them done on the same day, back to back? And they said, well, it's pretty unusual. I don't know, unless it's a real emergency that you have to get them done. You don't have to have them done all in the same day. And I said, no, I'd prefer to do that. So we scheduled it back to back. So I knew at that time that it was going to be a long event, I guess you could say. And I needed to plan how I was going to spend my time, because I didn't want to be focusing on stuff that was going to be a downer or cause me discomfort or whatever. So I made a plan that when I went in for that MRI, and I'd been doing some brain stuff in the past with thinking and the power of the brain and so forth, the power of the mind. So I had decided that I was going to do a futuristic type of thought process while I was in the MRI, which is exactly what I did. What I decided that I was going to think about, which was something I did want to do, that I was planning that in a few, down the road, when I was back a little bit more healthy, that I wanted to absolutely buy an RV and do a trip that would take, maybe a month and a half, 2 months out on the road, all through the United States. Well, I didn't own an RV, but I had owned an RV, so I did have a little experience with it. So when I got in the MRI, I started from the very beginning, during the very first MRI, thinking in my head exactly how I wanted that to look. So the first MRI went pretty fast, and I spent the entire time thinking about the kind of RV I was going to get. Did I want to get a Class C? Did I want to get a Class A? Did I want to include other people to go along on the trip? So if that's the case, or invite people to come visit me, I wanted to make sure I had enough room to sleep as many people as I wanted. Another really important part of that was I needed to make sure that underneath the RV I had the storage space for my golf clubs, my tennis racket, my pickleball, my racquetball, things that I hadn't been doing very much of since the brain bleed, but it was stuff that I was going to get back to doing. So that first MRI, that's all I did, was plan what kind of RV I was going to get. They pulled me out, I got up, I stretched, then I slid back in, and the next MRI was about, well, I've got my my RV planned, what I want, where do I want to go? So then that MRI was spent, the whole time that was spent thinking about the destination. Did I want to see family? Did I want to see friends? Did I want to go out west? Did I want to go down to Key West? I'd been there, but not in an RV. How did I want to do my trip? And so I spent all kinds of things. Did I want to be in a big city? Did I want to be in campgrounds? Did I want to be in a KOA campground? Did I want to be in state parks? That MRI went pretty fast also. Pulled me out, stretched, it was, and my back, I didn't even pay any attention to my back because I do have some back issues, which was one of the MRIs was to check my back out. So the next one rolled me back in, and the next one was, not only do I, need to know where I'm going to go, what am I going to do on a daily basis in my RV? Well, so I started to think, well, I know that I usually sleep in the mornings. That doesn't happen when you're in an RV, if you're at a campground. And early in the morning when anybody's up, you hear the noise. They're not real soundproof. So my schedule usually when I'm at home is stay up late, sleep in late. I had to kind of schedule that and see how that would go for me. So that's what I focused on for that part of the my RV experience. What did I do? I wanted to make sure that I had a comfortable chairs sitting outside, so when I got up in the morning I could have my coffee and I could sit there, drink my coffee, visit with the neighbors. The other thing is, where do I get my food? So, I needed to know that I'm going to go, before I start my trip, I'm going to make sure that I stock up as much as you can in an RV with a small refrigerator. I'm going to go to Costco and get some of the necessary things. And then, not only that, when you're traveling around the United States, there's usually a Costco or a Sam's close, so that's not going to be a problem. So that was my third MRI. And then in the fourth one, I went back in. I thought, well, I know where I'm going. I know what my day is going to look like for the most part, but there's some things that I really would like to do, some experiences that are fun for me. And I like to go to plays. I love Major League Baseball. So I thought, well, I'm going to schedule some of my trips that I go on, I'm going to schedule them around baseball schedules and in cities that have major league teams. So that's, I can go to Atlanta. I could start out going to Atlanta. Wouldn't it be cool if the Braves were playing the Cubs, the Chicago Cubs, my favorite team? Yeah, well, and then that brought up the fact, well, I'm not going to want to be driving the RV through the city of Atlanta. Well, I can drive it through the city of Atlanta, but when I get parked at a park to stay, I need to have my car. So I need to make sure that I get the right car that I can bring along with me too, because I'm not going to really want to be driving in the city too much. So when I want to do some trips, something else that I've always wanted to see, I love to go to plays. I don't know that I'll make it to New York City, but I think Chicago had Hamilton, the play Hamilton, and I wanted to see that. I'm not sure if it was still even around when I was making this trip, but I thought I can go to my hometown, stay at Loudon Park, have my car there, get tickets to Hamilton, and just drive the car into Chicago to see it. So, next I knew, the girl's pulling me out of the MRI, and I wasn't finished. I still had things that I needed to plan. But my point is, I had lots of choices of things to think about. Now, this had not happened, so I wasn't thinking about something in the past, even though I did have the experience of being in an RV. But it was something that I was hoping at some point in my life that does happen. So I could have sat there and felt sad because I had a brain bleed, and that means that things are going to be limited, or I make the choice. And that's the whole point. We have the choice to think about things that we want. Do you know that when we're not talking, or when we're really actively involved in something else, you are constantly thinking. So just pay attention a little bit to what your thoughts are. It's a skill, actually, to once you start down kind of a negative thought pattern, and you've done that for years and years and years, you've got to know how to shift back to do that. Not real easy to do. It seems like it should be, but it's not. And we want to kind of retrain our brain. So anyway, happy holidays to you guys. Enjoy the whole month of December. I hope that you get some value out of this, and wish you the absolute best in all that you're doing. And I'm now getting ready to have my Greek salad that, and I actually got a few extra anchovies, which is some of my favorite. Okay, thanks you guys. Happy holidays. Bye now.